And pray. Amen. I'm only making one announcement because it's that important. And I've been on this the last couple of weeks, but I really want to emphasize it. This Wednesday at 6 o'clock, right here, we're going to feed you guys. You might even get like a free t-shirt or something if you come. We just want you guys to come. We're going to fellowship. It's a great opportunity if you're new here. Everybody's technically new here because we've existed for like 3 whole months. But come, you'll get a chance to meet with people in a casual environment where there's plenty of time to talk. And then I'm going to talk to you guys about serving. It's the greatest way to get plugged in, the greatest way to get to know people. We have tons of opportunity. It's a beautiful thing about a church plant. There's tons of opportunity for you to serve. There's tons of opportunity for you to plug in. We've got kids stuff. We've got worship and production stuff. We've got all kinds of things. I've often said we would love to build out the rest of this worship team. If you can't sing, just own that, all right? I want to be on the worship team more than anyone. I've tried out 3 times, and Greg has told me no. All 3 times. Jill keeps telling me to come back. She's like, no, you can sing. I hear you in the office. I'm a singer. I sing all day, every day. And I've said it before, but my dad encourages me to sing solo. Solo, no one else can hear. But come, be with us. I'm telling you, it's going to be a great time if you're new here. We want you here. We want you to plug in. We want to love on you, get to know you better. And then that's going to help us roll out some other exciting things that are coming up. But there are tons of needs. I said it last week, but I told my launch team, give me 3-4 months. I want them slick. All right, it's time for some substitutes. It's time for some replacements. Some of my guys out front are like, amen. Standing out there in the rain and the cold, but they're faithful, and so we appreciate it. I'm so thankful for the team God's already sent us, man. He has blessed and blessed and blessed me personally with a group of people that serve without complaint, that serve joyfully. And so today we're going to wrap up our series, New Year, New You. And so we've talked about all kinds of things, about how our history, our hurts, and our habits don't define us. We talked about the story of Gideon and how he was living in a depressed place. And he was living with the mentality of, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. And how that has no place in our life as Christians. And we talked about the rebuilding of the temple and how there's plenty of fuel to not only get us started, but to finish what it is that we're doing. And last week we talked about doubts. And we talked about how we all have doubts, but sometimes the church is a place that says you can't have a doubt. But in reality, doubts, when you give them to God, lead to discovery. And those discoveries will propel you forward. I didn't get into it last week, but we talked about doubting Thomas and all of the doubts that he had and how Jesus allowed him to discover for himself that he was in fact resurrected, that he was in fact the Messiah. And Thomas then, he goes to India and he sets the world on fire, man. I mean, he is out to win souls and build a kingdom. And there's a point in Thomas's life where he is believed to have been held hostage, and they tell him, you denounce your faith, or we're going to take your life. And he's going to take it, boys. He literally died for his faith. All we have to do is live for ours. That's a pretty good deal, right? Pretty good deal. So doubts, they're not always bad. They lead to discovery. But today I want to talk to you from the concept of real change is from the inside out. Real change, lasting change, which is what it takes to find a new you, comes from the inside out. Right? It comes through the heart. What happens is oftentimes in life when we want to change things, we want to change all of the external things around us. Right? I want to change my relationships. I want to change my job. I want to change my clothes. I want to change my hairstyle. I want to change everything that is circumstantial about my life. But that's not lasting change. You just replace one relationship with another. You just replace one set of clothes with another. You just replace one hairdo with another. So we often change those things that are on the outside. Why? Because our desires dictate our decisions. Our desires, what we desire in life, is what dictates the decisions that we make. So we want to change things based upon our desires. And I believe that there's a place for that. You know, when you look at Scripture and you study Scripture, and that's what we're going to get into today, you see a man named David. And Scripture refers to him as a man after God's own heart. His desire was God's heart. And I think we can look at a little bit of this, and we're actually going to roll into an entire series on David, kind of the gospel according to David, because it's just beautifully told through him. But whenever we shift our focus and we shift our perspective and it becomes about our heart, when our heart is desiring after God's heart, then that change becomes lasting. It's real change from the inside out, not the outside in. You see, changing your circumstance will never change your heart. Changing your heart will change every circumstance. It only works one way. I can change everything about the outside of my life, and it will never change the inside of my life. I change the inside of my life one time, and it will change everything about the outside of my life. Real change, the real new you, is about shifting your heart's desire to being all about God and what He has for us. Your heart leads your actions, man. It leads your decisions. We want to shift it to the right place. We're going to pick up in 1 Samuel 24. I'm going to read quite a bit here, and then we're going to go back through and we're going to parse it out a little bit. It says, after Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, he was told, David is in the desert of En-Gedi. Give a little context here. Saul's king over Judah, okay? And David is anointed to be the king, and Saul at this point has been rejected by God because his heart isn't right. Okay, so Saul grows to hate David, and he wants to kill him. So he is in active pursuit of David. He makes many, many attempts on David's life. So he's after him, and Saul learns that David is up in this desert. So Saul took 3,000 able young men from all of Israel and set out to look for David and his men near the crags of the wild goats. I don't know about y'all, but if I'm David and someone's trying to kill me, I'm not hanging out near the crags of the wild goats. I'm going to find somewhere that sounds a little more peaceful than that. That does not sound like the place to be if someone's trying to kill me. So Saul's got about 5 times as many men with him as David. He has all the advantages. He knows where David is at this point. He came to the sheep pens along the way. A cave was there. And Saul went in to relieve himself. David and his men were far back in the cave. The men said, this is the day the Lord spoke of when He said to you, I will give your enemy into your hand for you to deal with as you wish. Then David crept up unnoticed and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Afterward, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off a corner of his robe. He said to his men, the Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, or lay my hand on him, for he is the anointed of the Lord. With these words, David sharply rebuked his men and did not allow them to attack Saul. And Saul left the cave and went his way. I'm going to stop there for just a second. I want us to look at this because if we want to really find a new you, we've got to shift our heart. We've got to shift our inside. And I love this. David's desire to obey God overturned his impulse. I mean, Saul, the guy that's trying to kill David, walks into the cave where David and his men are hiding to go potty. Saul's on a potty break, man. I mean, it's like, it is here. I'm going to win. I've got it. He doesn't even know we're in the back of the cave. It's like the bear in the back of the cave, that you're scared of when you're a kid. That's David. And he's got everything at his advantage, right? He can win. The impulse would be to go and to kill Saul, right? That would be your natural impulse. You would say, hey, I'm going to pounce on the victory. I'm going to take what's mine. I'm going to get rid of Saul once and for all. He's trying to kill me. Right. It's not just that I want his spot. It's that I just want to live. I don't want him to get me. How many times is that true of our lives, right? Sometimes we just want to live. We just want to survive. But our impulse often owns us. And I love it because David's men are saying, here it is, guys. Here's the time. This is the time where the Lord's going to deliver Saul into your hand, David. Go get him. My grandpa's been one of these guys in my life that I go to a lot. And sometimes us young men are impulsive. Right? You got to drive, you got to fire, you got to burn. And I remember when I very first got out of law school, I was in a spot that I did not like at all. Okay, I was miserably unhappy. Regretted all of the decisions and the time and the effort that I had taken to make it through law school and to take the bar and to do all of that stuff. It was horrible. And I used to go down and I would visit with one of my buddies, and he'd take me on my bag and send me back on my way. Might buy me lunch if I was lucky. So I'd call my grandpa and I'd say, "This happened today. What should I do about it?" He'd say, "I don't think I'd do anything about that." A few weeks would pass and it would have all worked itself out. Something else would happen and I would go back to him and I would say, "What should I do about this?" He'd say, "I don't think I would do anything about that. I think I would just let it ride. And it would work itself out." Right? So often in life, our impulse, our natural, our gut reaction says, go, change, do, fix, solve, move. When in reality, if we'll just calm down a little bit, if we'll just let God do His part. You see, David is so willing to be obedient to God that he's willing to neglect his impulse. And he has everyone around him saying, go, now's the time. We'll pause here. No one can change your spiritual life. No one can change the desires of your heart but you. Your family and your friends can pour into you. They can encourage you. They can do everything that you wanted. But it is your choice to change your heart and your heart's desires. No one else can do it for you. David's men are saying, man, come on. And he said, well, time out, boys. Time out. Not now. His desire to obey God and to let God do the work prevented him from being impulsive. If we'll shift the desires of our heart to desire what God has for us, we'll find a new you. A shortcut would have cost David in the end. Right? He comes up and he cuts off the corner of Saul's robe and he stops himself. Man, it's almost like a token reminder that David takes with him of the shortcut he almost took. Of the shortcut that he almost took. I love shortcuts. Y'all ever go to Walmart, and you're like in a hurry and inevitably like mama's in the car with the crying baby and you're like sprinting in to either buy formula or diapers. Those are the only two options when you're a dad of three. That's what I spend all of my money on. Like 98% of the budget, formula diapers. Right there. That's it. Those two things. Both are extremely important and you can't run out of either. That's the real challenge of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not optional. I guess technically the diapers probably are, but the formula is definitely not. That's how you feed your kid. Right? And Ben's lucky to get fed, but we do feed him. He doesn't always get all loaded up, but he gets fed. Right? And so you run in and it's like you got all your stuff in your cart and you're like sprinting up and I'm going to go speedy checkout. And it's like 10 items or less, or maybe it's 20, I don't know, call it 10. And inevitably what happens? That guy in front of you's got like 18. And I count. I'm like, could I get a store manager over here? I got a crying baby and he's hungry. And mama's in the car with her. She's getting mad. So what do? You're like, oh, I'm going to go over here to this cash register, right? That line's moving faster. I'm going to take a shortcut around, and you go over. And inevitably, one of a handful of things happens the moment I switch lines. Inevitably. They're moving fast. I mean, they got the good checker out, not the sloth one. You know what I'm saying? They got the good one. I mean, boom, boom, boom. They're rolling. And you get over and you switch, and inevitably what happens? Either A, the person directly in front of you is almost done checking out and they bust out the coupon catalog. Right? They start price checking. You're like, oh, why not take the shortcut? Or B, this is my personal favorite because my mom used to do this and I remember being a little kid and thinking about how inappropriate it was. I was like 5 and knew it was wrong. Man, I forgot something. I'll be right back if you just hold that. And they come back with like a package of ding-dongs. Like those ding-dongs were so important. That shortcut in life isn't always the best way. You can't shortcut your way to spiritual growth. You can't shortcut your way to a heart after God. There's no magic one. I can't do it for you. I don't have a magic trick. I wish I did. Trust me. I would wave it all over the place and we would be on fire for God. But that's not how it works. There's no shortcut to lasting change. There's no shortcut. You see, there's a process. There's a process to it. Sometimes the longer, the slower, the unspectacular path is the one leading to the new you. God's got you on that path for a reason. But man, I think what we hate about the long and the slow, or I'm going to say me, what I hate about the long and the slow and the unspectacular path is that inevitably that path comes with some heartache. It comes with some trial. It comes with some down moments, some down times where you don't feel like everything's working out the way that it should. But the fruit of our obedience will always be worth the pain of the process. The fruit of our obedience will always be worth the pain of the process. You see, David later becomes king. But if David takes the shortcut, it would have changed everything about him that qualified him to be king. If David takes the shortcut and he bypasses God and he says, I'm going to take matters into my own hands, and I kill Saul in this cave today, as expedient as it would have been, as amazing as it would have been, he would have been Saul in that moment. God had just rejected Saul. He had said, you're not fit to be king. Your heart's not right. David didn't take the shortcut, but the fruit was worth the wait. The fruit of your obedience will always be worth the weight of the process. You know, sometimes I hate it because I want to go, man. I mean, I'm a go. It's just my natural personality. And one of the things that I've learned, and I don't know much. I know enough to know that I don't know much. But one of the things that I've learned is that oftentimes I think God's not moving, but what He's really doing is pumping the brakes, saying, you're not ready. I'm going to say it again. Oftentimes I think God's not moving, but what He's really doing is pumping the brakes, saying, you're not ready. You see, a lot of those changes I wanted to make whenever I very first gotten out of law school, would have circumvented all of the fruit I received by waiting. My grandpa's encouraging me to just stay still and just pay your dues and just take the time, follow the process. I felt like I wanted to mash down. I wanted to put it in the left lane and boogie, man. That's what I wanted to do. I would have cut myself out of everything. Because God was just pumping the brakes, saying, man, you're just not ready. You never see that until you get to where you want to be, right? You never see that you weren't ready in that moment. Trust the process. If you have a new you that desires God's heart, you're going to want to be obedient. You're going to take some pleasure in the process. God's not punishing you. He's just pumping the brakes. Our spiritual maturity is determined by what? By how often we attend church, by how much we give, by what roles we serve in, No. Our spiritual maturity is determined by our heart's attitude in obedience. You see, we've got a few options whenever God sets something out, whenever He says, hey man, I want you to have a heart that desires me above all else. I want a new you. We've got some options. We can not obey, right? Or we can obey begrudgingly, like my kids do. Or we can obey with some good attitudes. That's hard. I wish I could say that I had mastered this. I would tell you, I remember growing up as a kid, and they would always say that the pastor preaches on whatever he's dealing with. Pastor preaches on what he's dealing with. Let me tell you something. This was written well in advance of this last week I had, and I failed. I had a week full of bellyache. Jill's sick of hearing me talk about it. These guys are over here smirking because they're sick of hearing me talk about it. I failed. I did. I wanted to complain. I was down. I was out. And I took a moment. And I said, I'm getting out of the office. And I just hopped in my car. And I said, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this. I didn't know how. So I just started thanking God. Now I'm going to tell you, it didn't start out like with anything spectacular. I wish it did. I was trying to move some dry bones, okay? So it started out with, I'm going to thank you for this car. And I'm going to thank you for the gas in this car. And I'm going to thank you for the clothes that I have on. And I'm going to thank you for my health. And I'm going to thank you for the brain that you gave me. And I'm going to thank you for the roof over my head. And I'm going to thank you for my wife, who's the most spectacular person on this earth. And I'm going to thank you for 3 beautiful, healthy kids, no matter how much of a monster they are. And I'm going to thank you for great in-laws. And I'm going to thank you that they drive in from Little Rock week after week to help us build a church. And I'm going to thank you for the greatest group of people that allow me to be a part of their life as a shepherd. I'm going to thank you for everything that you've given me. And it starts to grow, and the atmosphere in the car starts to change, and then you start to realize, I'm going to thank you, God. You want to know why? Because you climbed up ashamed and naked and humiliated on a tree when you did nothing to deserve it, and you gave it all for me. And I'm going to thank you that 3 days later, you kicked he didn't roll a stone back, he kicked that thing out of the way. And he climbed up out of that tomb, and he said, no, not today. And he took the keys from death and hell and every evil that this world had ever known. You start thanking him a little bit, and it changes your attitude. You realize how selfish you are. Then you got to apologize for that too, God. I'm sorry I've been so selfish this week. I'm sorry I've been such a bellyache because my life is so ridiculously blessed that a little something throws me so far off. God, I find a new you, and it's measured by your obedience and the attitude that you have while you're being obedient. Are you frustrated all the time? Are you irritated? Are you mad? I'm telling you, if you'll find a heart after God, you'll find some peace and some joy in the middle of the storm, in the middle of the nasty, in the middle of everything negative going on in your life. And you'll say, God, I'm going to go no matter what, because that's what you want for me. You know, I was reading today in this, Cheryl in my office, her son got into medical school, and Patrick had posted this beautiful note that he had written to get in, his personal statement to get in, and he sets it all up just beautifully about this gymnastics meet when he wins a state championship. And he talks about all of the hours of preparation that went in, and how it was one moment is what the world saw, but it was hours of preparation. But how the hours of preparation he spent for that one moment in gymnastics had prepared him for a lifetime in medicine. You see, he understood that there was something bigger about the moments of preparation, about the moments of obedience, about the moments of discipline. He understood that those moments, those hours, didn't just lead to one grand moment. It led to a lifetime of fulfillment and a lifetime of discipline and a lifetime of willingness to pursue and sacrifice. And I was thinking about that from a faith perspective. And I thought, you know, sometimes we live this life like, God, why do I have to be obedient? Because we view it from the perspective of, I live for one moment to cross over the threshold of heaven. Like we think, God, I got to spend a lifetime of obedience, a lifetime of preparation, a lifetime of moments of suffering, a lifetime of all of this, just so I can cross over the threshold of heaven, just for one moment. But that's the exact opposite of the truth. You see, anyone in this room would say, yeah, you know, he spent 5 years practicing to win a state championship in gymnastics, and it helped him get into med school. The 5 years of practice were well worth it, right? The 5 years of practice were worth the 50 years of medicine. We would all agree with that. The lifetime of obedience to God is for an eternity in heaven. Not one moment when we cross the threshold. It's for forever. Man, whenever you start to think about it from that perspective, that you know what? and I've said it, and I'll say it, and I'll say it. This is just one big race to heaven, and it's just our job to get everybody with us that we can. It'll change the way you look at the speed bumps of life. You say, you know what? How about that, devil? I'm going to cry grace to that mountain, and I'm going to watch it become a plain. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Have a heart that desires God, and you'll trust the process. You'll trust it when He pumps the brakes. You'll trust it. You won't take the shortcut. Later on in this passage, and I'm not going to read it all for the sake of time, we'll pick it up. In verse 14, it says, against whom has the king of Israel come out? This is David speaking to Saul. He says, who are you pursuing? A dead dog, a flea? What he's giving reference to is he's saying, Saul, why are you so worried about me? Why is it that you're so worried about me? You see, David saw God, Saul saw David. We all have a David in our life, right? Saul was looking at David while David was looking at God. You see, the position of your heart dictates what you see. The position of your heart, the desire of your heart, dictates what you see. Saul's heart wasn't in alignment with God, so Saul could only see David. And David said, why are you looking at me? I'm nothing more but a flea or a dead dog. Why are you so consumed with me? David saw God, while Saul could only see David. Fix your heart, and it will fix your eyes. If you have a heart that desires God, what happens is your vision is going to become clearer. You're going to see things through a different lens, through a different perspective. The circumstances of your life are going to be viewed differently because you're going to understand that God is in control and that He has a plan and that His plan is to make you new and for you to prosper and for you to have great things. And yeah, there's some speed bumps along the way, but in the end we win. Man, we don't talk about winning enough in church. We win. That's what we do, man. You follow Jesus, you win. Who doesn't love winning? I mean, I'm an Arkansas Razorback fan, so it's questionable if I love winning. But I really do. I love 1 Corinthians 2:9. It says, what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love Him. We can't see it, we can't hear it, we can't comprehend what He has for us. But if our heart isn't fixed on Him, if the new you doesn't say, I'm going to be sold out to you, I'm going to be obedient to you, what happens is all we see is the world. All we see is what is in front of us. Man, when your heart fixes on God, what you start to see is heaven. You start to see the eternal payoff for just a little bit of obedience. Man, I know that the years sometimes seem long and the days and the weeks. I had one of those weeks. I'm right there with you, okay? But I'm telling you, it's just a blip on the radar. This life is nothing compared to eternity. I'm going to close if I can get the praise team back up. In this passage, David goes on to make it clear that he leaves it up to God to judge who's right between he and Saul. But that's not his job. And I love it in 1 Peter 2:20 through about 25. It says, but how is it to your credit if you receive a beating for doing wrong and endure it? But if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, this is commendable before God. To this you were called because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in His steps. He committed no sin and no deceit was found in His mouth. When they hurled their insults at Him, He did not retaliate. When He suffered, He made no threats. Instead, He entrusted Himself to Him who judges justly.
He himself bore our sins in his body on the cross so that we might die to sins and live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. For you were like sheep going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. David's heart was fixed on God. That was his desire. So he was willing to say, you know what, Saul, I'm going to leave it to God to decide who's right between you and me. Because I know he judges justly. Who do you trust? Who has your heart? That's the question, right? If you want lasting change, if you really want to do you, you got to know that he has your heart, and that your heart's desire is him. With every head bowed and every eye closed in this place. If there's anybody in this room that would just say, Jacob, I don't have a personal relationship with Jesus, the one who had done no wrong, who bore all of my sins, but I want to know him. If you would just slip up your hand, we're not going to embarrass you, we're not going to call you out. If there's anybody in this room that would just say, I want my heart's desire to just be God. I want to be obedient to him in all things. I want to do what he wants me to do in my life. Just slip up your hand. We're just going to pray with you. I'm going to say a quick prayer, and then this worship team is going to lead us in one last song. Can we just give him our all for just a handful of minutes and say, you get every part of me. Heavenly Father, man, we thank you for your word. We thank you for your presence, God. You change everything. We ask that our heart's desire would be solely you. Let us see you for who you really are, the truth that you really are. Let us understand that you have paid it all. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Change my heart, oh God. Make it ever true. Change my heart, oh God. May I be like you. Change my heart, oh God.
Let's just stand on our feet and worship him for just a minute.
Change my heart, oh God. May I be like you. You are I rely.
Man, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being with us. Don't forget, this Wednesday, 6 o'clock, I would love to see every person in this room. If you say, I don't know where I'm going to serve, or if it's okay. Just come, eat with us, fellowship with us, let us love on you, love on us. That's what this thing is all about, because together with me. Amen. Have a great week. Invite somebody to be back with you next week.